darkness are, Nagarjuna claims, equivalent. So, if the butter lamp illuminates objects by its light reaching them, it should clear darkness by means of its light reaching darkness. But that would be for light and darkness to be present in the same place, which is contradictory. 11. If the illumination of darkness occurs without the butter lamp reaching darkness, all of the darkness in the world should be illuminated. If it is not necessary, on the other hand, for the light of the butter lamp to reach darkness in order to dispel it, since there is a lot of darkness in the world not reached by any single butter lamp, that butter lamp should be capable of dispelling all of that darkness. 12. If, when it is illuminated, the butter lamp illuminates itself and others, darkness should, without a doubt, conceal itself and others. Finally, Nagarjuna argues, if we are seriously to maintain that the butter lamp illuminates itself and others through a luminous essence, then since the essence of darkness is to conceal things, and things with such essences affect themselves and others, we should expect darkness to be self-concealing. But then we would not see darkness. The point of all of this is not that we can't see lamps when they are lit, or that we can when they aren't. Rather it is that the mechanism by which we see what we see when a lamp is lit is the same whether we are seeing the lamp or other things. To put it in contemporary terms, photons reach our eyes from the lamp or from its flame in the same way they do from the other physical objects in the neighborhood. And just as the visibility of the things in the neighborhood is dependent on a host of conditions, so is the visibility of the lamp. So we do not have even an analogy to a case where the status of dependent arising would be distinct from that of the dependently arisen. 13. How could this arising, being known arisen, give rise to itself? And if it is arisen from another, having arisen, what is the need for another arising? Here Nagarjuna is bringing us back to the original argument and reminding us of the reificationist's uncomfortable choice between a vicious regress and a begged question. If every arisen thing depends on an ontologically prior arising, we have an infinite regress. For each arising will require such a foundation. But if we cut off the regress by presupposing at some level a known arisen dependent arising, we have to ask why that level is exempt from the need for explanation. Nagarjuna now announces the conclusion he will defend in the next section of the chapter. 14. The arisen, the non-arisen, and that which is arising do not arise in any way at all. Thus, they should be understood. Just like the gone, the not gone, and the going. Recall the analysis of motion. Nagarjuna argued that no entity answering to emotion could be found in an entity that was in motion in the past, nor in an entity yet to move, nor in a currently moving entity. Motion had to be understood relationally, and not as an entity. Using similar reasoning, Nagarjuna will now argue that arising cannot be found as an entity in something not yet arisen, nor in something that has already arisen, nor in something yet to arise. Arising will also fail to be an entity, and will have to be understood relationally. This will provide the key both to the refutation of the position that underlies both extreme positions that for arising to exist, it must exist inherently, and to the construction of a coherent positive account of dependent arising. The next 3 verses begin a sketch of dependent arising as empty, connecting this fact with the emptiness of dependently arisen phenomena. 15. When there is arising, but not yet that which is arising. How can we say that that which is arising depends on this arising? Nagarjuna here suggests that the way the reificationist has gone about posing the philosophical problem about the status of dependent arising itself is all wrong. The initial presumption at the basis of this debate is that arisen entities arise from an independently existing process of dependent arising. But this is wrong-headed in at least 2 ways. First, phenomena arise from other phenomena, not from arising. So, For instance, if I strike a match, the fire emerges from the friction, the sulfur, the oxygen, my desire for light, and so forth, but not from dependent arising itself. That is a fact at a different level of analysis, which itself comprises the network of relationships just indicated. Second, if the existence of the process of arising antedates the existence of the arisen, it cannot be a sufficient condition or a complete explanation of the arisen. For if it were, the arisen would then exist. That being so, Nagarjuna asks, why posit dependent? Arising itself as a phenomenon within the framework of dependent arising? 16. Whatever is dependently arisen, such a thing is essentially peaceful. Therefore that which is arising and arising itself are themselves peaceful. The sense of peaceful, GBA, here is important. Nagarjuna is asserting that things are not, from the ultimate point of view, in the constant flux of arising, remaining, and decaying that characterizes them from the conventional point of view. This will be the conclusion of the extended argument that follows and is here merely announced in advance. But it is important at this stage to be clear about just what Nagarjuna is asserting, for it is indeed a delicate point. It is true that ordinarily and pre-reflectively, and sometimes as the result of bad philosophy, we tend to think of things as permanent and as having fixed essential natures. But a careful reflection on the nature of conventional phenomena shows them on analysis to be impermanent and, hence, to be characterized by the three properties of arising, stasis, and cessation. But while this takes us to a deeper understanding of the nature of phenomena, it does not take us all the way. For phenomena, having no essence, cannot have even these properties essentially. One way of seeing that is this: if we take the import of the threefold nature of phenomena seriously, we see that the phenomena are themselves literally momentary. And if they are momentary, then there is literally no time for them to arise, to endure, or to decay. So from an ultimate point of view, the point of view from which they have no existence as extended phenomena at all, they do not possess these three properties. Hence no single real entity is in flux. In this sense, they are peaceful. Nagarjuna points out the other way of seeing phenomena in the next verse. It does not follow from the fact that there are no inherently existent arisen entities that there are non-arisen ones. All phenomena are arisen, but they arise as empty and as dependent. Coming to be just as arising, and all arising is dependent arising. Nagarjuna now turns his attention to an analysis of the three characteristics of arising, stasis, and cessation, showing of each in turn that it cannot be understood as ontologically independent. He begins with arising. 17. If a known arisen entity anywhere exists, that entity would have to arise. But if it were non-existent, what could arise? We can exclude known arisen entities from the analysis, since the only sense that we can make of the existence of any phenomenon is in terms of its having arisen. Arising is hence a ubiquitous characteristic of phenomena. This, of course, is part of what motivates treating it, as well as stasis and cessation, as inherently existent. If this arising gave rise to that which is arising, by means of what arising